Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7. It's an awkward day today. I'm sandwiched in between the legendary Dan Mandis and the spirited upstart Matt Murphy.
I like that.
And that's a weird sandwich, folks. It's I don't know. I don't really even know how to process that. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I am rested. I am here. And this is going to be Y'all Talk Radio. I got plenty of things to talk about. My wife will tell you, I can talk to a brick wall for 3 hours straight. I'd rather not do that. As such, you guys know the drill. 615-737-9986. That's the call-in line. It's also the Super Talk text line. I can see you. I can see all the things that you say, all the mean things. My mom, she doesn't read this one. She does read Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at @DCameronSmith, we'll have the conversation over there too. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your participation. Every time I get to fill in, it makes it fun. Oh, wow. We've got a lot to talk about. The first thing that's actually kind of cool, some of y'all have asked, well, you fill in a lot, but like, what's your day job? Well, a couple different things. I work with Thanks. It's a company that shows basically gratitude in business. And I've learned a lot from them about appreciation. And that's where I'd like to lead today is show some appreciation for folks. There's a lot going on that's weird now in politics. It just is. We all know it. The woke stuff, the weird, wild, angry stuff. Find somebody, show some appreciation. Call your mama. Say, hey, thank you. Because when you do that, it makes it not about you. It makes it about somebody else, and it makes life worth living. So that's one thing that I do. Another thing that I do is I'm a columnist for the Tennessean, USA Today Network. I'm ramping up my writing over there. So I really appreciate it when you guys see the things that I write. Check out that Sunday paper. Yes, for some of you, there still is a piece of paper, several of them, that comes on Sundays, comes at other times. You read it, sniff it. I don't know what you do with it, but I have columns that are in there. And you can feel free to yell at me and tell me why I'm wrong and do all of those things on social media at DCameronSmith right now on the Super Talk text line. I also want to tell you, we need to get the hashtag TN politics going, okay? In other states where I've done policy and politics, I'm an attorney with a background in that stuff. I've different think tanks. Hashtag TN politics. When we want to have a conversation, just throw in that little hashtag, and then people can search that hashtag and join the conversation. It's a lot of fun. Do it. Other thing, football, y'all. I know this is not a sports show, but the Nolensville Panthers, we had a little camp. Started last night for the 10U Panthers, and it was glorious.
They're looking good.
Oh, yeah.
Ferocious.
Aggressive. America has a future, folks. I want you to know this. Of all the, I'm just going to say it. Kids are soft. Right now, you got a lot of kids like, ooh, I'm gonna go play Fortnite. I'm going to go play whatever the thingy is. And so they get white and pale and soft and doughy. And these are the kids that are like, nah, I'm going to catch a frog. I may eat it. I'm not sure. but these are the outdoor kids. These are the ones that go and do that.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I get to coach these kids, and they are wonderful. And it gets me excited, not just about football, but about the future. When I was listening to Dan's show talking about the woke culture coming for the kids, and my response is bring it. I got some kids that'd be like, that's weird. Moving on. And I'm just telling you, that's encouraging. I'm not going to do the hand wringing. I want to educate, teach, and encourage kids in a different direction from what our culture's doing. We talked about, I said, what's failure? And they were like, well, when you lose. I said, no, that's a loss. Well, when you drop a ball. No, that's just a drop pass. What if you miss a tackle? Well, that's a whiff. Failure is when you quit. And we talked about resilience, continuing to go and never giving up. And you know what? That's what we need to teach our kids. The answer is not, let's ban these crazy liberals from their things. It's we say, no, we're going to teach kids the right things. And that to me, I'm telling you, super, super exciting. I will
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, oh no, the culture is coming for our kids. We just learn this. If you just learn this, you're not a very good parent. Culture is always coming for your kids. And if you are not fighting for them and their friends and saying, no, these are the right things. This is true. This is just. This whole like find your truth and wander out into the moral abyss. That's not a thing. If you're not doing that, then you're just complaining. And so invest in young people. Teach them. Encourage them. Lift them up. When they fall down, dust them off, pick them up, get them going. That's how we change the culture in the direction that we want. It's not saying, well, what government person is going to come in and ban things I don't like? Don't be a baby. Be a winner. I like that. Last thing, this is a big deal. We've got an extreme heat warning coming up. And as a coach, as somebody who's outside working with kids, sweating profusely, I would just implore you, your dogs, all that other stuff, little kids, make sure they have water, make sure they have access indoors and breaks. I mean, this is not a joke, folks. This with a heat index potentially up to 115 degrees, we're in problem. Yeah, it's hot.
Wow.
That's problem land.
Yeah.
Do not mess around with that. That can be a huge, huge issue. I want to start the show giving you a couple of, that's kind of sort of the rundown of things. Some of the topics. I want to talk about Representative Andy Eagle's impeachment effort just for a second, because that's a follow-on from Dan's show. I want to talk about Republicans learning to win elections instead of making excuses. Look, we're going to talk about the Trump audio clip. Your ears are going to burn. You're going to yell at me, and it's okay. We need to have the discussion about what that means for his trial, what it means for his defense, what it means for politics. Let's talk about that insanely crowded Republican field. I mean, good grief. I pulled up the FEC data, like everybody and their brother's running. People I didn't even know. Have y'all heard of Perry Johnson? Perry Johnson spent over $1 million running for president of the United States, and I have no idea who this guy is. He wrote a book. Cool. I'm laughing at my own notes. Kink for kids. That's weird. But that's what we're going to talk about, that because Washington Post said that, hey, they ran an article that said kids should have access to kink. It's good for them to kind of learn about all their options. That's insane, by the way.
I'm glad no one's looking through your notes without context and just seeing you write kink for kids.
Yeah, my shorthand notes are terrifying. The Supreme Court has come in and rejected the independent state legislature theory. You guys may have heard about this and remembered this from the January 6th stuff, that it was the state legislature can kind of do whatever they want and they can send their own independent slate of electors and all of the, it was sort of some interesting legal theories. Supreme Court said, no. Mm-mm. And we can talk a little bit about that. We got some different laws going to effect in Tennessee. We've got a sort of uprising mutiny thing in Russia that just kind of went, that was a thing. Yeah, very good sound effect, because that's exactly what it feels like. And I mean, we got a lot going on. So again, call in, text in, join the conversation. I appreciate it. And hey, we already got somebody. There's already somebody out. We practice in this weather every day. They never canceled, but they didn't raise, slang term for female genitalia, back then. All right, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, no. They also gave people salt pills and other weird things. At one point, there was something called a carbolic smoke ball. Over time, we learned that things that can be harmful for kids. Here's the deal. There are a lot of soft, squishy kids that are not resilient and not respectful and not a lot of those things. I respect that. However, I want more kids to be outside, to play sports. And so if they, start yakking their brains out because they're having heat exhaustion, or they're not properly hydrated, they decide they don't like it anymore, so they go back inside. So I hear you. I understand, we were tough back in the day. Yeah, I like to believe that about myself too. But we know a lot more now, and we know this can be real dangerous. And it makes kids not want to be outside when they get hurt or injured because of the heat. And I've watched kids drop, okay? I've seen kids that pushed it. And you want to talk about a scary situation for parents and coaches? It's rough. So I'll tell you what. Bill's on the line. He's been patient. I want to get to Bill real quick, and then we'll come back and talk about impeachment after Bill talks, and we'll do a little break. All right, Bill, you're on the air.
Hey, I'm curious about the impeachment proceeding. I just feel it's going to be the same way that it was with Bill Clinton. I mean, the Republicans impeached him, and all the Democrats said, no, he's not guilty, and nothing's going to happen. As long as they have control of the Senate, the impeachment will really mean nothing.
Well, and I
need to know what you think.
So I want to ask you, Bill, what is the high crime and misdemeanor? Okay, so that's the constitutional standard for impeachment, right? It's a political question. That's true. What is the high crime and misdemeanor that you're attaching to President Biden right now?
That he hasn't protected our country like he swore to.
Okay.
And letting all the immigrants in. To me, that's impeachable.
So if a president has a border policy where what amount of immigrants have to come over illegally for it to be a high crime and misdemeanor?
But it's not just the fact that they're coming over illegally in numbers. The amount of people that, like you mentioned before, 125. They mentioned before 125 people they caught that are on the terrorist watch list that are slipping through because they can't take control of the border. And my country's in danger when people who are on a terrorist list get through into my country.
Yeah, and you're aware that that's happened under previous presidents too, right?
Well, I guess it has, but maybe not under the amount of, because of the lack of security. They did the best they could. This guy is suppressing people being searched and questioned and background checks. They trust them to show up at court. Really?
So
I'm a terrorist and I'm going to show up at court in a couple of months? I don't think so.
Sure. So help me understand the difference between, and I'll give you that President Biden and Kamala Harris are awful at border policy. Like, they have not figured this out. They are terrible at it. That's, in my estimation, a political question. Like, you're just bad at your job versus high crime and misdemeanor. Like, where do you draw that line, Bill?
Well, the other thing he did, taking bribes, more, I'm going to call it a bribe from other countries to lean policy towards their favor and do things for politically for countries just because I got paid to do it. And all these things are, to me, impeachable, but who knows what the law says is impeachable. And even if it did, like the law said, Bill Clinton should have been impeached. And the Senate said, no, he's the best president we ever had. If you've got a Democratic Senate, you're not going to convict him and get him actually impeached.
And that's a really good point, Bill. I really appreciate your call. I think Bill's onto something here, and I think a lot of people have these questions. And so we're going to explore them on the other side of the break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7. Welcome back, y'all. The great Mac Maury. Just spot on, man. I'm here in my Hawaiian shirt. I'm tan. We're ready to rock and roll.
You're relaxed. You're refreshed.
I am quite relaxed and quite refreshed, in fact. I had a great time down at the beach in the Gulf of Mexico with my family, and there were
wonderful.
There were like 20 of us.
Woo!
Like there were kids everywhere, and I love it.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I actually got a column that I'm working on today. I'll finish it. I'll probably publish it over at AL.com. But the Gulf of Mexico has been the one constant in my life from when I was a little kid, right? And there were, like, I try to go see the Gulf of Mexico at least once a year. And what's funny is people are like, well, you know, you and your fancy vacations. Well, it has not always been fancy. You know, I didn't realize how wonderful an opportunity it was that my parents took us on vacations, and they were really nice until I got married and I didn't have any money. You know, you're newlywed and you're like, so, seriously, we were in a situation, my wife and I had a mattress. We got married. We're living in Washington, D.C., and we had a mattress that had a divot in the middle. Like, this was just a terrible mattress. And so at night, we'd just roll into each other.
Concave, right. And you would just, yeah.
It was like a pit, right? And we needed to replace this thing. And she also wanted to go see her parents for the holidays. And I said, you got a choice. We have a couple $100 in our bank account. We can either go see your parents or buy a mattress. Like, you know, so I get it, right? Like that stage of life. And, you know, I still want to go see the Gulf of Mexico. So I remember after that, we lived down in Alabama. And I had some work meetings. I worked at a place called the Alabama Policy Institute, which is kind of like the Beacon Center of Tennessee, but it's in Alabama. And I had some meetings in Montgomery and Mobile. And for those of y'all who have driven down 65, it's kind of in a straight line. And I got to Mobile, and I'm in a suit, right? And a dress shirt and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I just got to go see the Gulf of Mexico. So I drive all the way down to 65 in my work clothes, hit the hangout, and then there's a public beach next to it. And I just take off my jacket, my dress shoes. I roll up my dress pants.
Wow.
And I'm there, and I'm talking black suit, red tie, white shirt, super conservative guy. And I just ran out in the water. And I'm sure people thought I got into like the bad meth or something.
Yeah, 100%.
But I'm telling you, just to see the water, to get some perspective, to realize, hey, you know, God created this. This is God's power. You are small. You need to get over yourself. It's just a real orienting thing for me. So even when it couldn't be like a fancy vacation, it was great. And now to go with a bunch of family and my brother's family, my sister's family, my parents, it's, you know, just getting outside, going to see in the water. I mean, I don't care whether you're camping out down there, you have a super fancy place. It doesn't matter. Just, it's great down there. And I would encourage all of you. I don't care if you have to drive out and just run out in the water. Do it.
I'm in, man. That sounds awesome.
It is wonderful. So Mac, do we have to take a break right now? Or
got a couple minutes.
Okay.
Couple minutes.
So let me get to David on impeachment, and then we'll keep rolling on the impeachment topic. David, you're on the air.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Well, you was talking to the other gentleman about the impeachment.
Yeah.
And Biden and Kamala not knowing what they're doing on their job.
Yep.
I have to disagree with that. I believe 100% they know exactly what they're doing. They're leaving that border open, and they're doing it on purpose. It's not that they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
So what's the end game? Like, I think you might be onto something, but what is their goal with this?
Their goal for it, I believe, is to let enough people in to get votes. I believe their goal is, you know, they're doing this whole thing for votes down the road. You get them in, and then you get them legal, so they can vote. And in some cases, they're voting without being legal. And then, that's more votes in your pocket.
Yeah, and I hear
Control.
you.
It's all about control.
And yes, I mean, power and control has for a long time been sort of a Democratic MO. What would you say, though? It seems kind of inconsistent with I don't know whether you call it a sexual revolution with Democrats or what they're doing over there. I mean, a lot of these immigrants are pretty conservative socially. So,
Well,
are they having sort of a little bit of whiplash there?
No, I think that they're working that angle too. They're going after it. It doesn't matter how. What's the word? Crazy.
Yeah.
It is. The idea is they're gonna take and they're gonna agree with them to try to get their vote. And they're coming after our kids. They said it themselves. They don't care. All they want is power.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're gonna back and support whoever they think they can get that support from to give them power.
All right. Well, David, I appreciate the call. I think the desire for power and control is a big deal. Before we hit the break, and we're going to do that, and then we'll come back and talk more about impeachment. Wendy on the Super Talk text line has said, you know what? My son has his all-star baseball state tournament in Donaldson this weekend.
Glad you saw this.
And she is hydrating for this weekend starting now. I mean, her son is going to have to go to the bathroom a lot because if we're hydrating now for the weekend, that's a lot of water. But do it. But the Lawrence County 8U All-Stars, I see you guys.
Let's go.
Let's get it done. Woo! I mean, I love any kids that are willing to brave this kind of weather.
Seriously.
Moving into July and August. I mean, that's what America's going to be built on, the ones that don't wilt. So I see y'all. Good luck, Lawrence County. And, I just wanted to make sure we did this. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7. I'm wasting away here at Super Talk 99.7. I'm bringing the beach to the studio.
Oh, yeah.
And some people who are not dads don't wear fishing shirts and Hawaiian shirts all the time. I, by contrast, in the summer, am comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand. I mean, in the culture that we live in, when you see someone with the body type of a lowland mountain gorilla walking around in a Hawaiian shirt, you're like, what is he thinking? And the answer is, it's hot. It's really freaking hot.
It's really hot outside.
And I don't want to sweat everywhere and be known by my smell as opposed to my sight. And so this way, you're like, he's got some blue flowers on his shirt instead of, what is that smell? So you got choices, people. And
why is he already perspirating 40 minutes into the show?
Yes. And because of the mountain gorilla body type, I go to the gym. Like, this is a thing of the last year and a half. I encourage everybody to do it. Get your exercise. Set great examples for kids, right? And I'm preaching to myself here. But I go to the gym this time of year, and I go early in the morning, and I work out. And then, when you stop working out, it keeps going, and you're still sweating, after you stop.
Oh, yeah.
And so I go, and I have a gym there in Franklin that I go to, and I take a shower. They don't have any cold water because it's the summer in the South, and so the pipes are hot, and so the cold water is like lukewarm. And then I'm just sitting there, put my clothes on, and I'm sweating.
Still, yeah. Oh, yes.
And it's like,
it's the worst.
No, guys, I'm trying not to have a heart attack. That's why I'm at the gym. So me sweating isn't a sign that the heart attack is imminent. It's a sign that I went to try to prevent it, and I'm just hot again. So, again, get your fishing shirts. I had to explain to my boys, the thing in the back's called a vent. It's where the breeze, it catches you. And if I was a smaller person, I might fly away. But it's exciting. We're talking impeachment, and Joe Biden, and Andy Ogles was on Dan Mandis' show, and he was talking about the articles of impeachment. I want to get to Kevin, then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the merits. Kevin, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hoping you can hear me. Yeah, I wanted to say I'm kind of agreeing with the guy before about the power. I heard somebody making a theory that I kind of agree with. If you look at our population growth, it's really slowed down, and I think it's actually going negative now.
Yes, we're below the replacement rate.
Below the replacement rate, and I believe, between transing everybody and trying to do all that stuff and abortion and whatnot, and then you import all these illegals through the southern border that you can control, all of a sudden you create a two-class system. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's quite possible. In terms of, you mentioned something interesting with the replacement rate. So my question is, okay, let's say we shut down, we say no more immigration. We don't have enough people to replace our population, so what should we do?
Well, we've got to get back to our old culture where families mattered and quit trying to make families the enemy of the country. I mean, they've done everything they can to break up the nucleus family, and that's why we're not replacing. So the best thing that we can do is to encourage families, encourage marriage between people that can actually procreate and have them procreate.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. And Kevin just hit the nail on the head. We don't talk about it, but you got two options. And I've talked about this on the show and written columns on this, that we have a population numbers problem over the next several decades that we are not, and you can argue this is happening in Europe, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in a lot of places, that, hey, these more developed countries are not having enough kids to replace their populations. That's true. It's true of the United States. So you have to have immigration to offset that. If you want to have people that are working in your nursing home someday, you've got to have a common sense, rational, reasonable system of immigration. You just do. We don't have that now, but we have to have that if we want the U.S. to continue. And there's numerous reports out that basically point to the reality that we should be competing for the best and brightest around the world and saying, hey, come to America. We should not be anti-immigrant. We should be pro-immigration in a system that makes sense, is rational, and isn't this sort of like, we caught you at the border running across and we released you into the interior, good luck. That's incoherent. It's ridiculous. It's a huge problem. But that's the Biden system. That's what's out there. And I think those are the two options. Either, and Kevin was spot on here, families get bigger. They start having more kids. Or you got to find people from somewhere. And I think the destruction of the nuclear family is maybe the biggest, I don't know what to call it, but it's sort of the biggest harm for our family. We need to focus public policy on supporting families, making it easier for you to live your life, to buy groceries, to raise your kids, to educate them in the way that you see fit so that we have productive members of society. That should be our foremost focus. And we get distracted. And Andy Ogle said this, and he was right, that, for example, China should be our focus. We have plenty of things that are good policy priorities we need to go after. I would argue at this point, impeachment is not one of them. Whoa, I understand. That's like, wait, what is he saying? What? The standard for impeachment is high, and it should be. That was the case with Trump, and it's the case with Joe Biden. The standard is high crimes and misdemeanors. It's not, is Joe Biden really, really incompetent? It's not, is Kamala Harris the worst immigration czar policymaker in the history of our country? I mean, those can be true, but high crimes and misdemeanors needs to be the threshold. I'll say, of the things that are out there, it was a little interesting for me to hear Andy Ogle say that the finance stuff, there were some gaps there that needed to be filled in. So that's kind of on pause. Because for me, if Joe Biden is corruptly using his influence as vice president or in other capacities to enrich his family, and you can show that, that probably does reach that threshold. I think if you can make the argument that, and this is what Democrats did to Trump, hey, you're using your political power in your office, or I should say your presidential power to punish your political enemies. Okay, that's at least an argument. If you can demonstrate that. But this idea that like the border is porous and people are bringing drugs across and all this other stuff, I hear that, and it's a huge problem, but I don't think it's a high crime and misdemeanor. And this is ultimately a political question. So let's table that for a second. If Joe Biden, let's just say we'll stipulate that he's horrible at border policy and that Americans are dying as a result, and then all the bad things. Impeachment is a political question. It's not a criminal charge. There's not a prosecutor in the traditional sense. It's the House votes on articles of impeachment, which is sort of like an indictment, and the Senate hears the case and votes on removal and that sort of thing. There's no way that this goes anywhere in the Senate. No way. And so I think that the conversation about an impeachment is premature until you got Joe Biden dead to rights. When you've got, hey, your family's corrupt and we can connect the dots that show you used your office to enrich your family in an illegal way, then stick him. And frankly, don't just impeach him, prosecute him. I mean, that's a serious, serious issue, and it undermines confidence in the presidency. But until you do that, and this is what, and Congressman Ogles made a good point about this and said, well, it ruffled some feathers in leadership. Do you know why privilege motions and things to advance impeachment ruffles feathers with Republican leadership? It's not because they're rhinos. It's because they want to have the tightest case possible if they're going to pursue that. They want it to be serious and not easily dismissed as partisan messaging. I know that may not make you feel good. It may not be what you want to hear, but it's the truth. And so this is what, if that's going to be a thing, it takes air out of the room. We're not talking about Russia, Ukraine. We're not talking about China. We're not actually talking about border policy and security. We're not doing any of that. It pulls the conversation away. We know that it's not advancing. And oh, by the way, we've got an election coming up. That's a good thing. And instead of this political messaging and hand waving and saying we don't like Joe Biden, well, guess what? I don't expect any Republican or conservative to love Joe Biden. And frankly, I don't think most swing voters do either. So the answer is to win elections. And when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about what that actually means. And oh man, we're going to get wild. I understand that this is going to be a dicey conversation, but we got to have it. I'm Cameron Smith, and this is Super Talk 99.7. All right, Mac. Now we're just getting straight up suggestive. Look.
This is less from the beachy theme.
Yes, this is from my childhood. This is old school Nelly. It's
Clean version.
Yes, there was a lot of. I had a 15-inch MTX subwoofer in the back of my Blazer.
Oh, wow.
And it would shake the earth. So Nelly, Master P,
Yes.
Eminem.
Wow.
And it was like, cool. This ridiculously white suburban
Yes,
kid
exactly.
from Brentwood, man, he's straight up bumping. And you can hear him from like 2 miles away. And it never dawned on me that I was upsetting my neighbors. But I've realized that we have reached the top of the first hour. It's been great. You guys
Time flies.
have engaged so well that we didn't even make it past the first topic. I mean, I have like 7. Like I'm loaded for bear. I'm ready to go. But you guys have such great thoughts and want to engage and make it so much fun that one topic, guys. One topic. But we're coming back and we're going to get to other topics. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. President Biden is on his way to Chicago to deliver remarks on the U.S. economy. The White House calling this a major speech on what it's dubbed Bidenomics. At the White House, here's ABC's Faith Abube.
The president is not expected to announce any new major economic policies, but rather he will highlight his legislative accomplishments so far in his first term. The speech is part of a new pitch to voters on what the White House has been calling Bidenomics, explaining the president's economic philosophy of building the economy from the bottom up and middle out. The president, however, telling me the term wasn't his idea.
I don't go around beating my chest Bidenomics. So the press started calling it Bidenomics. I like it. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine because it is my policy.
Faith Abube, ABC News, the White House.
With the holiday weekend approaching, coast-to-coast problems persist at the nation's airports, triggered by bad weather in the Northeast and poor air traffic control staffing levels.
The FAA has admitted it is understaffed at key facilities, including one right here in the New York City region. The TSA is predicting that the peak of this 4th of July holiday travel will be Friday. So Friday is likely to be the busiest travel day when they expect to screen nearly 2.9 million flyers.
That's ABC's Stephanie Ramos at Newark International Airport. Hazy skies expected to move on from the Chicago area today. They've been getting the same smoky conditions at places like New York got a couple of weeks ago, brought on by out-of-control wildfires burning across Canada.
A lakefront breeze here in Chicago is expected to clear the air a bit, but some of this will linger, and officials in New York are preparing for possibly more smoke there later this week.
That's ABC's Alex Perez in Chicago. The former New York City Marine accused of choking a homeless man to death on a subway train, pleading not guilty to second-degree manslaughter in court this morning. You're listening to ABC News.
And we're back. I'm Cameron Smith. That was a great first hour. I really, really appreciate it. I also apologize to those of you who are distracted by my Hawaiian shirt and its awesomeness. My wife warned me when I left the house. She's like, sweetie, when you look like that, you're going to have to beat him away with a stick. And I said, okay, cool. And so I went and got a stick and put it in the car. So I get it. I understand. I'm sort of like a dad bod version of James Bond, actually, is kind of the vibe. If he were on a beach. Yeah, Matt gets it. I understand. I mean, some people have different things that they're into. I'm into politics and reports about data.
Ooh.
I read things that are more than 3 pages. But thankfully, I read and nerd out on this stuff. So you guys don't have to, and we can have the conversation. I absolutely want y'all to keep participating. The call-in super text line, 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. The truth is, actually, if I leave early enough in the morning, my wife doesn't have her contacts in and can't see what I look like. So I can run away really fast without her telling me.
Before she disapproves of that.
Yes, before she's like, no.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. She, in college, she took pictures of my clothes. No, it's not feisty or anything like that. She literally took pictures of clothes that I should wear together and gave them to me and was like, these are the things that go together and are appropriate.
These match,
Right.
okay?
Yeah. Here's your picture because I'm not fashionably inclined. Okay. I want to move on from the impeachment topic, but what I want to say is just make sure that you don't get distracted by this stuff. I'm not saying that there's no case that can be constructed that merits impeachment. I'm saying you got to fill in those blanks that Andy Ogles mentioned. You have to have the high crimes and misdemeanors. Simply saying, I don't like Joe Biden. He's really, really bad at policy. The border is way too porous. That's not high crimes and misdemeanors. That's incompetence. And you say, well, it's intentional. Okay, cool, but you got to prove that and show that. If you show Joe Biden is intentionally opening, I understand the conjecture. I understand you may feel that way, and I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong. But we don't want. I mean, we said the exact opposite when Trump was on the hook for impeachment. It was, hey, this is reserved for high crimes and misdemeanors. This is reserved for the most serious and grave offenses. This is not you don't like Trump, so you get to impeach him. We don't need to kind of keep playing that game because it's bad for America. If we can show Joe Biden used his office to corruptly enrich his family, and there's plenty of smoke, all right, that's what impeachment's there for. If you can't show that and just show his son is super shady, I mean, that's not necessarily a Biden crime. So talking about winning elections as opposed to making excuses. Ben Shapiro, I saw him on a clip that was coming through, and he said, I don't really care about your feelings about Trump. We need to beat Joe Biden. That needs to be the focal point. And for conservatives and Republicans, that should be the objective. What I'm concerned about here is that we don't have the numbers as conservatives that we like to think we do in a state like Tennessee. And then we simply assume that what we like and want is what can win a general election. It's just not. And we have to win those swing voters. And I know you guys hate it when I talk about swing voters. You're like, why do these guys get to be in charge? Well, that's how elections work. And I don't mean in charge. It's not as if there's a suburban mom in Arizona who's like, I control the country. It's that, hey, there's a handful of states that swing in a general election. And within those states, it's the voters who will vote either Republican or Democrat. I know, as a matter of fact, that many of y'all who are listening to the sound of my voice are tried and true conservative Republicans. you're not actually even considering voting for a Democrat. There's not a Democrat that could be conservative enough that you should say, okay, cool, I'm going to vote for them. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the elections nationwide for the presidency of the United States are decided by folks who basically have an open political mind. They've said, well, I voted Democrat before, I voted Republican before. I'm looking for the candidate that I want that seems the best. You don't have to like that. You don't have to like that Pennsylvania and Arizona and now Georgia and to a lesser extent Ohio. Ohio's trending very Republican. But a handful of states get to essentially dictate the outcome. I think the problem is when you just sort of assume we should just triple down on the same strategy. And I just want to know what the plan is. I want to know what the plan is to get this stuff, to win the election and beat Joe Biden. As a conservative, I don't like his agenda. I don't like his policies. I don't like what's happened with, I don't like the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think he's been sort of unclear on all of the Ukraine stuff, like what the end game is, what the game plan is here. It's been a way that even where I can agree that, hey, Russia's the bad actor here, show me a plan for American involvement that's just not open-ended and extremely costly. We've got a bad track record of those type of engagements. And so I'm very supportive of stopping Russia, but I think Joe Biden's leadership has been horrible. I think when we look at the southern border, good grief, we talked about it for an hour. We all know it's bad. But what's our plan? And I'm not talking about all the policy stuff. Like, we do need to have good policies, but elections are not necessarily driven by policy. But what's our plan to beat Joe Biden? What's our plan to win over those independent voters to change it? Well, nobody likes Joe Biden. That's not a plan. Obviously, enough people like Joe Biden that he's the president of the United States. Well, but COVID. Okay, sure. But Republican legislators around the country addressed a lot of those things. And my contention is that you still have to answer the question about independent voters. You must. And until you do that, I think that we are cruising through a bruising. That's what we're looking at. And you can tell me that, like, well, you're a rhino or you're this because you don't think Trump can. No, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm trying to understand where Trump's going to add to his base with the headwinds he's facing. And it was fascinating. I found this NBC News article. And look, I take polls with a grain of salt, but this one's actually really interesting because it's over time. And this one, it's June 26, 2023, updated in the last couple of days. A full 56% of Republican primary voters say they prefer the nominee be closest to them on the issues compared to 39% who prioritize beating Biden. What? A full 56% of Republican primary voters care more about that the candidate on the ballot is like them and they like them than whether they can actually win. And this will shift, and it does shift closer to the election. Like, I know that. So I'm not like freaking out about this. But the fact that we need to say, what is the most conservative I can get in the context that can win an election? That's kind of how I look at it. Like, what is the best conservative candidate with the best policies that can win the general election? And what these polls are saying, and this happened with Obama and other folks, that Republicans still think, no, actually, I want to like them. I want to really, really have my favorite primary juggernaut heading into the general. And I think we got to be careful there. And I'm telling you folks, and there's no way around it. We've got to confront it. We've got to deal with it. This audio clip that came out from Trump, this is ugly. Ugly. I think Mac's got it teed up. Mac, can you play the audio?
It's sick, people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Milley's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, Mm-hmm. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time,
she'd send it to Anthony Weiner. The pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible? Though?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
declassify.
Figure out
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Here and I have. And you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
it's incredible, right?
No,
hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Yeah. That sound is the sound of Trump shooting himself in the foot. And the reason that you can tell me all your excuses and your reasons why this is somehow perfectly fine. It's not. And I want to address this rhino thing because I joke around it. Matt and I joke around with this stuff. And I see Ray, and Ray and I joke back and forth every time I'm on the air. Ray, he lovingly calls me Cameron Romney. Let me tell you something. I fought against John McCain on immigration reform in the United States Senate. I advanced the REINS Act, which is a massive regulatory reform. I've worked on conservative policies and pushing back on stupid, squishy stuff for a lot of my career. Like actually doing it, not just calling people names and doing the back and forth, but pushing conservative ideas. And so I get it that it's easy to say things like, well, you just don't like it. Like you don't like Trump. I don't care. I want to beat Joe Biden. I'm assuming that those of you out there who are Trump acolytes also want to beat Joe Biden. And the problem is you got to connect and confront with reality, right? There's another problem is we have way too many Republicans in the field. That's true. But this is the recording that's now publicly available that prosecutors are going to use to basically say two things. One, Trump knew he didn't have the authority to declassify documents after leaving office. That's in the recording. Like he knows that. He admits that. That's his voice. I don't care what he has in his hand and what he's waving around. He's telling you about what his mindset is. He's also saying that he didn't declassify some of the materials in his possession before he left office. Again, it's his own voice, his own words. And this case stands or falls on its own merits. I will concede all day long that Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted. At a minimum, they shouldn't have stopped the investigation. James Comey comes out and says, no reasonable prosecutor should prosecute this. Well, you know what's funny? James Comey is not a prosecutor. He was the director of the FBI. The prosecutors are ultimately the ones that make that call. So when the FBI director comes out and says, we just don't think any reasonable prosecutor would do this. He's basically stacking the deck against a prosecutor's decision, which is highly irregular and something that he shouldn't have done. I agree that there is tons of smoke and maybe a little fire around Joe Biden and his family. And Hunter Biden, oh my goodness. Agree with you that this is gross. And it certainly does not look like he got the same deal that he would have gotten if he wasn't a Biden. I can concede and agree with all that and still tell you that this case that Trump is federally indicted in stands or falls on its own merits, and they've got this recording that blows a massive hole in his defense. And so this is going to crush Trump with independent voters and the folks that swing the election. And when we come back from the break, I want you guys to tell me what I'm missing, why I'm wrong, and why Trump is still the best option to lead the Republican Party. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7. This is the summer beat session of Super Talk 99.7. I want to pose the question again that we did as we move into this discussion. I know you don't like what I'm saying. I'm not saying it because I think it's good. It's fun. I'm saying it because it's a conversation we need to have. That this audio looks like Trump just shot his own defense in the foot. And if you still say, hey, no, actually, you're wrong, Cameron. This is perfect and this is fine and everything's okay. I want to hear that. I want to understand that. If not, who's your person? Because, look, Trump's the juggernaut. Everybody knows it. Right now, he's in the catbird seat. And so I just, a couple things that I want to say that I know that it's hard because we tend to do this a lot, and I don't want us to be like the liberals. When Democrats hear something that they don't like and makes them uncomfortable, a lot of them take their ball and go home. Like, you're a bigot, bye. You're this, that's terrible. When somebody challenges you and puts out something that you don't necessarily love and makes you uncomfortable, please engage the conversation. Don't be like them. Like, I know. I told you when I broached the conversation, I knew when Dan Mandis played that clip this last hour, it would key a lot of you guys up because we want to have the conversation. So I want to do that. Mike has been the most patient, so I'm going to get to him first. Mike, you're on the air. What you got?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well.
As far as Donald Trump goes, I like Donald Trump.
Okay.
I think he did some awesome things for this country. He kept more of his promises than any politician in history.
Okay.
I just wish the man could act like a president and control his mouth.
Well, I would argue he can't. So now what?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I have a dilemma. Do I want him in the office representing our country the way he is? Although I like his policies, I'm kind of, I have mixed emotions here.
So let me ask you a question. What do you get? I'll just use Ron DeSantis because he's like a Trump clone on policy, right?
Right.
What do you get with Donald Trump that you don't also get with Ron DeSantis minus all the baggage of Trump?
Well, not much, really. I think they have a lot of similarities in what they would do for this nation.
Okay.
And so I don't have a problem with Ron DeSantis. If he is a Republican nominee, I'll probably vote for him.
Okay.
I also like Tim Scott.
Yeah, me too.
I've heard a lot of things from him, and I think he would do good. I think a Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott team would be a good choice. One is president, one is vice president, and I'm not particular about which way you go with that.
So right now, and I'm going to push it back on you. Yeah, sure. You support the Republican, the general. Got it. Who are you going to support in the primary?
I don't know yet.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's fair.
I mean, really, we have some good options. And like I said, I like Donald Trump. He's an awesome guy for what he does. He just cannot get past. He cannot learn when to keep his mouth shut. Yeah. I mean, even this secret document thing. Now, I don't believe everything I hear on the news.
Sure.
I know videos can be just show you clips of what they want you to see.
Of course.
They can show you 100 secret document boxes in a room, but how many of them actually have secret information in them?
Correct.
And how many of them are just files? So, I heard the video where he talked about, hey, this is secret and I can't just I heard it. Is that the total video? Or what was that document? I don't know. So, I'm kind of in a dilemma there, but
that's fair.
And I think I'm like a lot of Republicans. We're kind of in a dilemma. We want a good, solid person there that will do Donald Trump things without a Donald Trump personality.
Yeah, and that is the conundrum, Mike. Thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. We've got, let's see, can I take one more caller, Matt? Okay. So let me get to Billy. He's the other one that's been waiting patiently. So, Billy, you're on the air.
How you doing, Mr. Cameron?
Doing great.
First of all, I want to say you are a breath of fresh air. I almost agree with everything you say. I am a old Republican conservative turned into a independent, all because of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I voted for him from 2016, and when he went to Helsinki and pretty much threw our Secret Service under the bus, I kind of started listening more closely. I think he is what's killing every chance the Republican Party has to win any election anymore. He's just toxic. Every time I give him a chance, he screws up.
Sure.
So I believe in everything you said. Now, all this stuff about Joe Biden, I'm like, hey, if he commits it, lock him up. I'm right down the middle. Nobody's above the law.
Yeah.
I think this stuff about Hunter Biden is a waste of time because it's basically just, well, what about him? This whataboutism doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can be he could be a felon. So Hunter Biden pleads to a felony. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Now what?
What's that going to do? Yeah. That has nothing to do with policy. I think this is today's Republican. Like I said, I loved Ronald Reagan. The only thing I didn't agree with him was his trickle-down economics, because I know human nature and greed is too heavy, and that wasn't going to work. And it's been proven time and time and time again it doesn't, even though today's Republicans are still pushing it. But I believe in the capital punishment. I believe I'm just pretty much right down the center. And hearing what you said, I'm telling you, they need to have more Republicans and more people on this radio station say the same thing, because criticisms don't work. People get tired of it. And I've gotten to the point, the only Republican that I would probably vote for would be either Chris Christie or Tim Scott.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Here's the deal. We've got a whole range of folks that have to come together to beat Joe Biden. And so I see you guys on the Super Talk text line. And I know that, the folks that are hardcore Trump are hardcore Trump. You say anything, even question Trump, you are bad. All right, I hear you. But then you got a lot of other voters, the ones you need to join you to win, who are like that last caller. Nah. So we got to figure something out, right? Because if our goal, let's assume that all of y'all who are very upset and saying, oh, this is bad, I can't believe this is anti-Trump. I'm not saying anti-Trump. I'm saying, tell me how we get those independent voters in. How do you get them to the table? And tell me that. Chris Christie is not going to be the nominee. Don't worry about that. That's not a thing. Tell me how Trump gets those independent voters. Don't tell me about his tweets. I don't care. Tell me how he wins the general election. Then I'm happy to talk about it. Mac, do we need to take a break right now? We got to take a break. I see you on the calls. We'll get to you. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up, because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
And we are cruising. And we also need to roll the windows down because it's getting hot in her.
Yes.
To quote Nelly. That's what we're up against. I love this conversation we're having right now. We got to bring the Big Ten out. We got to have as many Republicans and independent voters as we can to beat Joe Biden. That's the truth. If you want to beat Joe Biden, you got to have a bigger coalition. And I get it, right? The schoolyard bully approach to politics, which is like, my guy's the guy, and if you don't think so, you're bad and you're terrible. Okay, I hear you, but there's a broad audience here that's listening to the sound of my voice. There are a lot of people who are really thoughtful, and I love that about this audience. We got a lot of different views. A lot of them are very conservative, but it's a coalition of listeners who are trying to think through these issues of the day. And so this idea that, well, we're going to have a tough conversation about, this audio that's come out about Trump, the conversation about how do independent voters gravitate toward Trump when it's looking like they're going the other way. What does that mean for the Republican primary? And so we're not going to do the bully thing. That's not going to work because we need all the Republicans we can get. And I want to get some voices in here. I've got Melissa. She's been very patient. Melissa, you're on the air. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, honey. Look at what Donald Trump accomplished in his last 4 years. The people that, won't see that or can't remember that, they're blind. They're absolutely blind.
Sure.
We're in a battle of good versus evil.
Okay.
Trump speaks the truth. What comes in his mind goes out of his mouth. I love that.
I wouldn't argue with that. I think that's pretty fair.
I'm like that myself.
Sure.
I love that in a person. If you think it, you say it.
Sure. And I'm going to assume that you love Trump. Is that correct?
I love what Donald Trump has done for the United States of America. I love my country.
Sure. And all of that is great.
I want to keep our country. I don't want wickedness and mob and criminals running our country. I cannot believe Joe Biden sits behind the Resolute desk.
And there it is. Joe Biden's behind that desk. So we both agree, you and I, that we don't want him there, correct?
And the worst crime that has ever been committed against this country, he's responsible for. The Democratic Party is responsible for.
Okay, but my point is, if you don't want him there, you got to get voters who didn't vote for Trump last time to vote for him this time. How do you
They're
do
gonna
that?
Vote for him this time.
You're saying that, but how? How? Who?
I mean, all they have to do is listen to what the man has to say. That's the problem with these people, like your last caller. They won't listen to him.
Okay.
They don't listen to him. They don't turn on the rallies. They don't go to Right Side Broadcasting and watch the rallies and watch what he says.
Okay.
Watch the crowd response to him. They don't.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. If that's the approach, is they need to listen to him. I think that's fair.
They need to listen to him.
Okay.
Listen to him. And, they're going to pull something. I think he and DeSantis have already got this worked out. I really do.
Okay.
I really do. I kind of think Kristi Noem's going to be his running mate. Her commercials, I don't know if you've seen her commercials. They are fantastic. Have you seen her commercials?
I'll have to check them out. I like her. I think she's really interesting.
Oh, she's great. She's just come to South Dakota. She this morning I saw one. She's dressed up like a dental hygienist, going to clean this guy's teeth. And he goes, "Aren't you Kristi Noem?" She goes, "Yes, this is my first day on the job."
That is funny.
You got to love stuff like that. And that's Trump. He's funny.
Okay.
He's a funny guy. He's not a politician. He's not a preacher. He's a man. He's a flawed man. But give me somebody like him, plain spoken and true, and loves this country, wraps himself in the flag any day. Any day.
Okay.
I wish we had more like him in Tennessee.
All right. I appreciate the call, Melissa.
Like
Thank you very much. Thank you. Look, and there are a lot of folks who feel like Melissa does. And I think that's fine. Melissa's answer was they need to listen to Donald Trump. Okay, well, what's Donald Trump going to tell an independent voter that's going to make him vote for him? And Dave on the Super Talk text line, 615-737-9986, he kind of compressed it and made good sense out of it. He said, Cameron, this is how we bring the independents on board. Trump needs to focus on his accomplishments as president, such as cheap gas, groceries, cheap taxes, all the things he's accomplished, because we know these things to be true. And he also needs to stop bashing and give positive speeches to independents, not negative speeches. It's that easy. Well, Dave, you basically said Trump needs to not be Trump personality-wise and focus on what he did in office. He's not going to do that. There's no precedent for that. And so you can say that you wish these things were true, but my question is, again, if you're there, how are you going to bring the independent voters? And if you don't have an answer, then Trump's not going to beat Joe Biden. Ben Shapiro pointed this out. He said Trump's not going to beat Joe Biden. He doesn't have the appeal to those independent voters anyway. This indictment, this recording, it's just an eroding thing. So he's wildly popular with Republicans. There's no taking that away right now. But the folks that he needs to win the general election, he's not. So tell me that pathway. Kevin has been super patient, and so I want to get to Kevin real quick. Kevin, just Cameron, you're on the air.
Cameron, I want to tell you that I agree with Billy, and I kind of dispute Melissa's last comment on this.
Okay.
I'm an independent voter. I voted for Phil Bredesen to go to the Senate against Marsha Blackburn. Don't care for her. And I voted for Governor Lee for Tennessee.
Okay.
So I'm as independent as you can get.
Sure.
Now, my problem with this is that Melissa wants us to listen to Trump. Is she not listening to the recording of Trump shooting himself in the foot? That's point one.
Sure.
Point two, as an independent voter, I make a politician work for my vote versus just following the party line.
Yeah.
I absolutely am. Anytime that you're on the air, I'm going to tune in, brother. You got I support your objective view on where we are.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
As far as an independent voter, I don't want to rehash the 2016 or the 2020 election. As far as I'm concerned, 2016 wasn't a vote for Trump. It was a vote against Hillary Clinton. We rolled the dice. We got Trump. He is a lightning rod. I like how he stacked the Supreme Court. That's something that I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life, and I like it.
Sure, I do too.
I like the conservative tilt. On the flip side of this, I don't want to have to vote for Biden. I would vote for DeSantis over Trump. Trump has had his 4 years. It was nothing but a complete and total circus, and he was the ringmaster, and I'll give him credit for that. But I don't want to rehash that. I want to look forward.
Sure.
And any Republican politician or primary candidate at this point, that how much is one American soldier's life? I am ex-military Navy vet, and how much is one military life worth? Give Ukraine everything that they need. They are killing our enemy. They're fighting for democracy. Give it to them. I don't like Biden's approach of this, hey, we're just going to bleed this out and make it a stalemate. Let them win. Let democracy shine bright.
Sure, Kevin.
On Russia's border. I will not vote for Trump if he is the primary candidate and the Republican candidate moving forward. I will not.
Okay.
I don't want to have to vote for Biden, but what I want is a politician, some of these front runners, to come out and talk about policy, not about 2020, not about Trump. Trump is the equivalent of the boogeyman, and Republicans always wave Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama. That's the boogeyman.
Right.
I don't want any more name calling. I want to hear about policies. What are you going to do to lower inflation? What are you going to do as far as foreign policy with Russia and China?
Right.
This is the largest land war that Europe has seen in 70 years. Putin is trying to redo the map by force.
Of course.
That cannot stand.
Yep.
If we don't stop him there, we'll be dealing with North Korea, and we'll be dealing with Taiwan.
Sure.
I stress back to you as an independent voter, I don't want Trump as a candidate. And
Sure.
if it is, you guys are going to push me back toward a vote that I've got to hold my nose and cast.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call, Kevin. Thank you very much. And here's the challenge, guys. This is the problem. Is I've got Kevin who's saying, hey, I want to vote Republican. I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. And I got Melissa who's saying, how could anybody not vote for Donald Trump? All right, cool. We got to figure out how to get those folks square to win. And this is the reality. Folks, I'm telling you, I'm picking the calls based on who's been waiting the longest. I'm not stacking the deck. They just say Trump, Trump, Trump. It's the topic. I'm not picking who's for what. We've got, do we need to take a break first?
No, take Wayne.
Okay. We're going to take Wayne. Max says we take Wayne. Wayne, what's going on?
I'm driving to Nashville, and I've got the pathway to victory for the Republicans.
All right. Tell
Go
me.
back to Bill Clinton. It's all about the economy, stupid. If you focus on the economy and what Trump did for the economy compared to what Biden did for the economy, and the last caller, if he went in the voting booth and voted for Biden, he's got problems because there is no way that Biden can hang with Trump. And all you got to do is focus on the economy and go back to Ronald Reagan. Are you better off 4 years ago than you are today?
Right, and I
think you'll
like
see what'll
that.
happen.
I like that plan. My question is, you think that that's enough, that they can say that basically Biden's economy bad, Trump's economy was better, that's enough to win the independent voters in the general?
Yes, you're going to vote your pocketbook because look how bad the economy's been.
Okay.
Look how many people have suffered with this economy.
So when Ron DeSantis says, hey, actually the economy in Florida did really well under my governorship, we're blowing and going, do we just sort of toss this out?
Let the people decide who they want to be the Republican nominee. And so far, everything points to Trump. Love him or don't love him. But his policies are so much better. And I will leave you with this, okay? Conservatism will never fail, where liberalism will never work. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
What policies does liberalism work?
Yeah, well, progressive. I mean, the road to serfdom, is F.A. Hayek talks about. It doesn't work. Like my point is, I don't want to lose to the ideas that haven't worked anywhere. That's what concerns me the most. Wayne, I really appreciate the call. That's excellent. Y'all have been fantastic engaging this topic. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7. Oh, this is nice. I can work with this.
Yeah, right? Come on.
I think I want to sum this up. We've just got a little time left. With Kathy's point from the Super Talk text line, it just says, if Trump gets the nomination, he won't be able to get independent voters. If he doesn't get the nomination, his supporters will take their ball and stay home. Or worse, he'll run as an independent. Essentially, Republicans are in trouble either way. I hope she's wrong. We're going to continue this conversation for a little bit on the other side of the hour. Y'all have been great. I really, really appreciate you calling in and engaging. The time's flying. We've made it through sort of 2 topics. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The man charged in the chokehold death of a passenger on a New York City subway last month appeared in court today.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny pleading not guilty in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, a homeless black man on a New York City subway train in May. His attorney claims he acted to protect himself and others from Neely, who was acting aggressively. But Neely's attorney, Dante Mills, says Penny was not justified to kill and noted his body language in court.
Daniel Penny did not have the courage to look Mr. Jordan's father, Andre, in the eyes.
If convicted, Penny could get 5 to 15 years in prison. Derek Dennis, ABC News, New York.
Volatile storms and FAA staffing shortages leading to another day of flight cancellations nationwide. The disruption comes as the 4th of July travel ramps up. At Newark Liberty International, emotions running high for some stranded passengers.
It's not okay because people have planned these vacations for like a long time. It's been a long couple of days.
Heavy smoke drifting into the U.S. from Canada. Wildfires burning could add to those delays and health concerns. Chicago has the worst air quality in the world today. ABC's Alex Perez is there.
A lakefront breeze here in Chicago is expected to clear the air a bit, but some of this will linger, and officials in New York are preparing for possibly more smoke there later this week.
President Biden traveling to Chicago today to deliver remarks on his economic policies and embracing a new term.
The speech is part of a new pitch to voters on what the White House has been calling Bidenomics, explaining the president's economic philosophy of building the economy from the bottom up and middle out. The president, however, telling me the term wasn't his idea.
I don't go around beating my chest Bidenomics. So the press started calling it Bidenomics. I like it. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine because it is my policy.
ABC's Faith Abube, you're listening to ABC News.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of our morning. I've appreciated you being with me. I'm Cameron Smith. I went onto the Twitter and I tweeted from @DCameronSmith, picture of me here in the studio with my lovely Hawaiian shirt and the hashtag Tennessee Politics.
Nice.
Hashtag TN Politics. Go look for that, retweet it so that people will actually use this hashtag. And also buy Hawaiian shirts. We want people to wear more floral patterns so I stand out less than I usually do. Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for your engagement here. And one of the things that's a little bit surprising to me is that there's a lot of agreement on, hey, we don't want Joe Biden to win. But we just seem to have these camps, right? There's the Trump or broke camp. And then there's the like, really? And they're pretty split. This isn't like a 80-20 type thing. And I saw this in Alabama with Mo Brooks and now Senator Katie Britt. At the time, earlier in the race, Representative Brooks was like, he was endorsed by Trump. He was like a 60% favorite. And he got whacked. Katie Britt won that race. And so there's a lot of things in play right now. And the idea, particularly from Trump supporters, I get it. It's a primary. It's a competition. Nobody likes competition. It's good for us. Nobody likes it. The challenge is those folks, the folks that are all in, are Trump endorsers, Trump folks, it's in their best interest to say, hey, look, he's clearly the front runner. He's polling at 60-something%. Nobody's caught him. We just need to mail it in. Like, Trump's the guy, rally around the guy. I agree with the general point of not bashing. Republicans don't need to bash each other. It is fair to have a conversation about who should be the nominee. And I'm sorry, Trump folks, the idea that your guy is the guy and there should be no competition, well, the president is Joe Biden. And so it's an open primary and there is competition. And we can have that exchange. We shouldn't trash other candidates, but we should have the discussion. And that's not the same as bashing. We need to recognize that. We've got some other folks on the line who've been extremely patient. Let's see. I'm going to go with who's been waiting the longest. I got Rick. Rick, you're on the line. Rick, can you hear me? Rick? I can hear myself on your phone. Okay, sorry, Rick. Let's see who else we've got. We've got Charles. Charles, you're on the air. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, tell me what you
I
think.
just want to make a couple of quick comments about Trump and DeSantis.
Okay, go for it.
I know that I believe that DeSantis should be supporting Trump because DeSantis was about to get beat by a radical down there in Florida.
Are you talking about Charlie Crist?
No. Trump went down there and held a rally for him and pulled him over the hump.
No, I'm talking about the Democrat he was running. Are you referring to Charlie Crist?
No.
What was the Democrat?
I can't remember his name. He was a black guy, but he was very radical.
Okay. Gotcha.
And Trump got him elected. So my opinion is DeSantis is a young enough fellow. He ought to wait his turn. And if the campaign ad is true, where he was, when he was in Congress, he voted for cut Medicare and Social Security and wanted to raise taxes. We don't need that. Maybe he's changed his policy. I don't know. Now, he's been a good governor for Florida, but
how long should he wait? When are you old enough to be president?
But Trump has been a great president for 50 states.
Okay.
And anyway, the people that think
well, you said wait his turn. How long should he wait?
I'm just saying that he's young enough that he can support Trump and try to win the presidency later.
Okay.
I'm not putting a time frame on how long he should wait.
Okay.
But
he shouldn't run now.
These people that I think he should support Trump.
Okay.
These people that think Trump is so terrible because he runs off at the mouth a little bit, and they don't consider that in my opinion, he's been the best president we've had in my lifetime.
Okay.
And I appreciate what he did for the country. Now, we don't know if DeSantis could do that or not. He might could, but we don't know. But we know that Trump's proved himself.
That's fair.
And I just think that DeSantis should show a little honor for the man that got him elected governor of Florida. And these people that are so anti-Trump and don't recognize what he did to this country, they're the problem because they're the voters. The voters are the problem that elect people like Biden, which is a disaster.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the call, Charles. Thank you very much. And I think Charles reflects a viewpoint that a lot of people share. But when you're telling me that the voters are the problem, that's how we decide elections. And so you got to appeal to the voters. You can't just say, well, the voters either vote for Trump or they're idiots. I mean, that's not how this works. And I understand that. And to Charles's point about loyalty and say, well, DeSantis should be loyal to Trump. Trump's not loyal to anybody. That's the truth. So the whole loyalty in politics, that if somebody helped you in politics, you can't run against them. You can't disagree with them. That's not true. It's okay. It's okay. Like in a primary, you run against people. You say, I think I have more of an appeal to the voters, and the voters sort it out. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's see who else I've got on the line. I've got Barry. Talk to me. Barry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. What you got?
Well, it's just like this, young feller. First of all, I'm an old veteran.
Okay.
I'm not a party member of any party. Never have been in my whole life, and I'm in my 70s. And the thing about it is this.
Okay.
I believe in a miracle, and I would like for people to take and look up the word socialist and find out what socialist means, and they'll find out that it is communist. Now, the thing about it is this. Who should be president next?
Yep.
Well, people have a choice. And excuse me, you're wrong saying that about that man. The people do have fault. They're the ones that put people in office. They're the ones that saying yay or nay to what goes on in our country.
That's how it works. That's true.
You and everybody.
Yep, that's how it works.
The thing about it is this. You have your opinion and you have the right to it.
Sure.
That's what I fought for everybody have their rights.
Sure.
Now, the thing about it is, just because a person have the rights don't make them right.
Correct. Correct.
Now, the thing about it is this. In that, what I listened to, that you played about Trump saying this and that and whatever, if you were president, you could take and declassify documents.
That's true.
And I picked up on this man too, and he was more or less letting it be known that he's not president, so he can't.
Correct.
Declassify those documents. Now, people twist things any which way they want to twist it, but I sit and listen to what that said. Now, the thing about it is this, young feller. I have took and observed in our country, and it's just like this, and I hate saying this, but there's quite a few socialist communists in the Senate and House and in the presidency right now, whether people want to say yay, nay, or whatever, and people don't have the backbone to stand up and take a point and say these people are going in the communist way and calling it for what it is. Don't use the word socialist, use the word communist. Back in my day, it was said socialist communist.
Well, Barry, how do you get more voters? How does Trump get more voters if he's your guy? How does he get more voters, those independent voters, that he didn't get in the last election? How does he do it?
Well, I'll just tell you this. I was telling you, I'm not a Trump
man or any of them. Never been in my life a party member. First thing is, in our country, I would that people would be straightforward and honest.
Sure.
And the thing about it is, if I have to manipulate somebody to vote for me, if I was running for office, then I don't really need it. I need to take and be straightforward, and the people, they're going to have to take and decide whether they want to vote for people that are backing communism or not.
So
right
I'll ask
now,
you
the
straightforward. Who's your guy? Who's your guy or gal? Who's your person? Who you voting for in the primary?
I don't know as of yet, and I can't say whether I vote or not. But the thing about it is, I can tell you that Chris Christie is in there to be a mad dog for the Democrat Party. I've been listening to him some on some of these here things that he was on. I don't know if it was Meet the Press or what, but it was one of them things. May have been on Channel 2, but I listened to him. And I've been listening to him periods of time, and he is in there to help knock Trump down like Liz Cheney did.
Yeah.
If Liz Cheney had done what she ought to have done, she should have looked at those people on January 6th thing when they took and wanted to put her in and says, no, I decline. That is not what my party's taking and who my party wants in there.
Okay.
So people need to stand up and do what's right, and that also applies to you.
I agree.
And me.
I agree. Thanks, Barry. I appreciate the call. And standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, is difficult. A lot of us want to be followers. We want to be told what to think, believe, and feel. We don't want to have to do it. We want somebody else to tell us, and then we just kind of stay on the team. I'm just asking you to think. I'm just saying, please, look at what's there and tell me on this topic how you win in a general, and then work back from there. There are a lot of good candidates in the field for Republicans. There are. But tell me how you get to a victory, because frankly, and I see this on the Super Talk text line, there are folks saying, well, it doesn't matter. You know, if we don't win, that's fine. No, it's not. I want to win. I don't like loser politics. And so this notion of either the thing you like happens or you're going to take your ball and go home. And I'll pick on folks in both directions. If you're like, I'm going to take my ball and go home, I'm going to go vote for a Democrat if I don't like this or no. We need to kind of keep things together. We need to work out the differences. And ultimately, the people still decide. The people always decide. And that's what I love about America. This is a win for us when people get to choose. But the idea of, well, it's the voters' fault. Either they get it right and do what I want, or they're all idiots, is not a winning strategy. You got to get people at the table. That's got to be part of the discussion. And here's what we're looking at, practically speaking. Under the new RNC debate rules, and let's face it, basically, if you don't get on the debate stage, if you're not part of the national news cycle, it's real hard to be the presidential nominee for any party. Joe Biden's over there for the Democrats. Let's just stipulate that. Under the new RNC debate rules, candidates have to have 40,000 donors to make the August 23 debate stage, including at least 200 from 20 distinct states. They have to garner at least 1% in 3 qualifying polls, 2 of them national, after July 1st. So we are coming up on the window where folks have to start qualifying for these RNC debates, which essentially is what will set the field. We've got, and I'll just use the ones that are above 1% in the national polls, and this fluctuates a little bit, but you've got Trump, DeSantis, Pence, Haley, Ramaswamy, Scott, Christie, and Hutchinson, all above 1%. Now, some of those are like low single digits, and you've got Trump and DeSantis, and I think Trump, DeSantis, and Pence are the only ones in double digits. Obviously, Trump's the front runner. But then you also have former Congressman Will Hurd, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Larry Elder, Perry Johnson, and I pulled the FEC information on candidates running for president, and oh my goodness, there are a ton of presidents, or a ton of folks running for office. There are not a ton of presidents. There's one president right now. But the candidates for the Republican nominee for president are just everywhere. Now, and this happens every year. A million different people run for president, technically, right? But they raise like no money or $1,000, buy some Facebook ads and call it a day. It's not a thing. But right now, you got a pretty crowded field. I think it's going to be better if you have 6 candidates with Trump, so that you can actually have a conversation, because he's a known quantity. So the more crowded that field gets, the more it benefits him. And that's just a political reality. We've got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7. I see what Mac did there. with a little sound garden in the sun. Not beach music, but kinda.
Yeah, a little bit.
If you think of the sun like that, it's a good song though. Again,
it is.
Mac was not born when that song came out. So
is that true? Really?
I don't know. Look it up.
I'm gonna look it up now. Yeah.
I'm Cameron Smith. Welcome back. Time is flying. Good grief, folks. And this should tell you something. When I get the controls here, this is your show. And I am grateful that you're participating, that you're here. Somebody has to kind of manage all the buttons and levers. And Mac's doing a great job of making sure that we check out things on time. But, man, y'all are great. This is tons of fun. 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. That's the super text line. And, look, we've been talking about, we've made it through 2 topics today. Guys, I had like 6. But your show, you decide. And this is what y'all want to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. Craig told me that he had the MTX subwoofer behind the seat of his single cab Nissan truck back in the day.
Yeah.
So I am not alone in this.
Let's go.
I am not alone. It's, I really want, I mean, the theme here is we need to have a plan on how we're going to win. I want to win. That's what matters to me. Like in politics, you can tell me all about your principles and virtues and things like that, but if you don't earn the right to govern, nobody cares. You can have the best principles, the best convictions, and as a nerd, it's easy for me to slip into this is the right policy based on my study of political philosophy. Nobody cares. What they really care about is, do you impact their lives and make those lives more positive? Are the things that are important to them and their families important to you as a politician? And do you advance those interests? And if you do, then they'll rally around you and support you. And if you don't, then it's really tough. And I don't know when we fell in love with politicians as conservatives. This is my biggest gripe. I don't care which politician you like. Don't fall in love with them. They are public servants. They are there to serve you. They serve at your pleasure. And so the moment that they don't, move on. That's how this system works and how it works efficiently. And the moment that you fall in love and say, you know, I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt despite my own judgment. And I'm not talking just about Trump. I'm talking about everybody. That's the problem. The politicians that I love the most, and I have some who are dear friends of mine, mentors, are the ones I'm the most cautious about. Why? Because I know they mean a lot to me. I know that I value them. Folks like Representative Gary Palmer, who Matt Murphy has on frequently, he was like a father figure to me. Like he helped me think critically about politics. And so when he says something, I really scrutinize it because I know that I may not be objective in that instance. U.S. Senator Katie Britt, a friend, somebody I think is great. I mean, I can go down the list of people who I personally have relationships with, but I'm cautious when they tell me a thing's the right thing because I like them. And so if you are in any politician's camp and you just love them, then you may not be seeing clearly. And I would urge you, for the sake of our country, to think critically about the people you like. You don't have to be mean to them. You don't have to run out and talk about all their flaws, but you need to trust your judgment. That's how this system works. For the people, by the people. The people have to really, really matter. And it's their judgment that matters so deeply because any one of us can have a bad day where we're just wrong about somebody. But together as Americans, hopefully we get it right more often than we get it wrong. Every now and then you get a wild card that gets through that's just like, ugh. But lately that's been concerning to me. And that's how I feel about Joe Biden, is I feel like nobody actually looked at Joe Biden in the last election.
Bingo.
They were all looking at Trump. They were like, do I love him or do I hate him? And nobody looked at the guy who's the president. That is super bad for us when we're not actually looking at the candidates, not evaluating them. We're simply being emotionally reactive. And so just please think, whoever you end up on, we may disagree, but that's okay. Just don't fall in love with politicians, because I will tell you that is a relationship that is going to hurt you in the end. It is not going to be healthy, because so many of them are not leaders. They are folks that they just love power. They love being talked about. They love being in the spotlight. Most other folks have better things to do. Most of you have better things to do. And I appreciate the fact that you're taking some time to talk with me today. But that's something that we've got to be cautious about as we move forward, that we don't let go of our sanity, our eyes and our ears. And so, for example, when I'm playing that Trump clip with his own voice, you should listen and decide, well, he told me that he could do all this stuff, but now he's telling me in a private recording that he didn't have that power. Well, is that an inconsistency? Did he lie? What's going on? And you reach a conclusion. I'm not going to tell you what you have. I respect you enough not to say, here's what you must think. I'm tired of people in the culture telling me what I need to think and feel, so I'm not going to do that to you. But I would tell you to trust your judgment. Just do that. And then make that call. One of the things, before you take a break, that y'all said that was really funny, is be careful what you wish for on the impeachment stuff, because the number 2 in line is Kamala Harris. And oh my goodness, it can get worse. I mean, can you imagine her giving a State of the Union address? What I have to say here, with all the words that I have, that intersectionality is the focus of the people and the dreams of our father. No. So remember that, folks, that just because you like one thing or supportive of one thing, that decision may have consequences, and you may not like those either. We got to take a break. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up, because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have 2 things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
Mac, you don't think I know who this is, do you?
Ooh, wow.
This is Greta Van Fleet.
Yes.
Love Greta Van Fleet.
They're so good.
So I missed their show. They came to the Quarry, I guess last year. I found these guys and was like, this is like Led Zeppelin.
Literally.
This is fantastic.
They're amazing.
So yes, Mac has tested me.
I did. Way to go.
And I've gotten everything from Nelly to Greta Van Fleet.
Really have.
I listen to way too much music, which is just a testament that I hang out in the gym and have my earbuds in.
Yes, exactly.
I guess I got to listen to something different, and so I listen to everything. Greta Van Fleet, you should check them out. They're amazing.
Really good. If you miss that classic rock sound, I mean, they're doing it, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about the crowded primary field. One of the things that's interesting, I was looking at Morning Consult. They have some really good information on second choices. And this is where I think Ron DeSantis is probably, in spite of the fact that he has not gained the momentum that he wanted. In fact, the candidate that's gained momentum has been Tim Scott. Now, it's still relatively small, but his plays in the early primary states are doing really well. DeSantis is not... He's not getting that momentum in the right direction that he wants right now. That's just the truth. But his sort of saving grace is that he's basically half of the Republican primary voters. He's their second choice. So he's got his supporters, and then folks are sort of like, well, if I wasn't going to vote for Trump, I'd vote for DeSantis, basically. And I think it's going to be interesting, but I think Trump, DeSantis... I mean, Pence is kind of hanging around in that 7 to 10% range. I just don't see who gets really excited about Mike Pence. I'm not saying he's a great guy.
Kind of milk toast, though.
Milk toast. Thank you, Donald Trump. But I just don't I don't actually think in filling in or doing my columns that anybody's reached out to me and been like, I'm a hardcore Pence guy.
Mike Pence.
Yes.
Let's go.
It's like he is a candidate who's a good guy. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Haley I like Ramaswamy. He has gotten so much earned media. He is everywhere, and he says a lot of interesting stuff. I like Tim Scott, and he's getting momentum. I think the problem for Tim Scott is everybody's like, man, he'd make a great vice presidential candidate. And I'm like, well, he might actually be a good presidential candidate, but when you start out of the gates and that's the thing you have to overcome, that's really, really tough. So we'll see how that. I agree with several on the Super Talk text line and in the callers that Chris Christie is here to punch Donald Trump in the mouth. He's not going to win the nomination. That's not going to happen. Matt Murphy and I have a conspiracy theory. Occasionally we create these things amongst ourselves that Ron DeSantis, may have offered like a attorney general gig or something like that to Christie to be like, can you come in and punch him in the mouth so I don't have to do it? I think that would have been really smart. I mean,
do the dirty work.
That's savvy politics. I have no evidence of this other than that would be really convenient. And then Asa Hutchinson, okay, fine. But I don't see him moving beyond the 1%. And so the folks that I think right now I would be interested to see on a debate stage, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. Give Pence his due. He's the vice president. He's not a throwaway. Haley, Ramaswamy, Scott. I mean, Christie will make it entertaining. I don't know sort of what the value add is there. But if it's a field like that and it's not 16, it could be useful for voters. I think it could be interesting. We'll grab a couple more callers. There's a lot of y'all. All y'all are fired up. That's awesome. So I'm going to get to as many as I can, but we are running out of time. Steve in Spring Hill, can you hear me?
Yeah, you say Steve.
You are Steve. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, that's me, man. How you doing, Cameron?
Doing great.
Question. I mean, first off, I'm one of those independent voters that apparently Republicans seem to hate now. I'm not sure why.
I don't think they do. I think it's just sort of it's hard to accept that folks that could vote either way heavily decide the election. But that's the truth.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I've voted for Trump twice, but I'm not ready to just for a coronation to, throw my hat, all my support behind Trump.
Sure.
I think he's the only person that the Republicans can nominate that can lose the general election. That's my opinion.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's very divisive, and I appreciate and I hear all these folks say, well, it's Trump's turn, and I don't care whose, quote, turn it is.
It's nobody's turn. You got to win.
Right.
We got to win.
Exactly. We need to win the election, and I'm a conservative. And, right now, if I had to vote in a primary, I'd vote for either Ron DeSantis or Tim Scott.
Okay.
You know? And I'm not saying that if Trump ends up being the nominee, I cannot vote for a liberal Democrat that's going to continue the craziness that's going on in this country right now. So, hey, if Trump's the nominee, I'll be pulling the lever for Trump a third time. But, if he doesn't debate, that's going to make it really hard for me. I mean, there's no reason to not have a debate with these folks. I mean, it may help Trump.
Well, my point is Donald Trump, in his track record, has performed extremely well whenever he gets a microphone. So the idea of, I'm not going to do the thing that I'm good at, that seems weird to me.
It does. It seems really weird. And I'm not understanding why they're turning this Republican primary into an adversarial situation. I mean, everybody wants to get rid of the Democrats. Stay on message.
Yeah.
That's my opinion as a independent voter, and as a young, I say I'm younger. I'm 56 years old. So, and my dad said to me last year before he died, he was 81. He said, it's time for my generation to sit down and shut up and let y'all drive the bus for a little while, because we've screwed things up. And I mean, let's be honest. Who's been in charge the last 8, 12 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I love my parents, that generation. But, guys, y'all kind of lost it now. And we need to – I mean, seriously, let's be honest. Trump's going to be 80 years old if he gets elected.
Hey, I've said this for a long time, and people are like, you are an ageist. I'm like, no, I'm a realist.
I'm a realist, man. You're not going to appeal to young voters if you're up there, you're 100 years old as far as they are concerned,
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you for the call. And I struggle – I mean, y'all have heard this show. There have been several people that have called in and been like, young fella, if you think of me as a young fella.
What do you think of me then?
I mean, Mac is like Mac's like an embryo if I'm a young fella. I mean, so that should I get it. But this whole idea of you got to wait to do anything useful until you're like 80. Like most people don't live that long. And so that to me, I've said, and people get mad, but I am not going to support any candidates for president who are older than the American life expectancy. I'm just not going to do it. Oh, well, what if they're really, really good? I don't care. I feel like you need folks, and I'm saying this from the position of a guy with a young family. I want folks in office that experience my life and the way it is for us to represent me. And I understand that there's seniors who vote in droves that say, I want folks that represent me. And that's great. But for me personally, I feel like we got plenty of graybeards in the Senate, in the House, in the White House. And I want basically folks that have an experience closer to my families right now. And that's just my vote. That's just how I do it. But I've said that many times that I feel strongly about it. And someday, Lord willing, I will be older than the American life expectancy. And I will be the first to say, no, you shouldn't vote for me. Do not vote for somebody that is, they don't have the future in front of them, because that's what our policies right now are building towards. Policies take a little while to enact and engage. And so if they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about the policy because I'm not going to be around to see it, that's not great. That is not a great legislative vision for anybody. So I get it. People may not like that, but I take Steve's point, and I think that he was very accurate. We can probably take one more call, and then we got to take a break. Let me see who has been waiting the longest.
I think let's go with Billy. Billy, it doesn't say it, but he's been on for a long, long time.
Oh, my goodness. Billy, you're on the air.
Who's this? Cameron?
Yeah, it's still me. Shockingly.
And this is Billy from Murfreesboro.
Hey, Billy.
Look, the first time around, the lines were drawn, I think, during Trump's first primary. I was a Cruz guy, and I know how you like support. You got that lawyer thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to make my prima facie case here.
Okay.
Cruz was a he was a fiscal conservative. He was an anti-socialist, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't buy into the climate change garbage. I like
that's true. That's true.
Freedom. Freedom Act. There was a time, we needed the Patriot Act, especially when the war on terror was raging. But he had a point. The federal government and the agencies
abused
outside like the CIA were, they had too much access to our personal information.
Sure.
At this point, I'm a retired vet. I was a young Republican, and I come from a long line of yellow dog Democrats. My dad used to say, the Democratic Party is the party of the working man. You always got to be a Democrat. But this is not his Democratic Party.
It is not. It is not.
Ronald Reagan was one of the best presidents, I think, in the modern era. I loved Kennedy, even though he was a Democrat. He had the right attitude. Don't ask what, your country could do for you. What can you do for the country?
Sure.
I don't know. We're letting a really small percentage of the country take over. The radical left-wing socialists, the XYZ, LMNOPQs, they are out there and they're promoting their agenda, and there's more of us than there are of them, but we don't have any teeth. The last time we controlled the powers of government, the Republicans didn't have any teeth. We just kind of let the Democrats shout us down, and we didn't push our platform, our agenda.
Agreed.
At this point in my, I'm retired, and I'm worried. I may actually have to vote for the Democrats because I'm worried about Social Security. I'm worried about my military retirement, and I can't go out and physically work like I used to. So I'm kind of at their mercy.
Yeah.
Looking at Kennedy. Of the Democrats, he is the most moderate,
right?
But of the Republicans, I don't know. Probably Swami, I like him.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump, as Americans, we love the underdog, and the more that he's persecuted, the more popular he gets.
Yeah.
But he's given them the ammo to load the gun to shoot at them.
Yes. Here's a stick. Beat me with it.
Yeah. When he became the nominee of our party, I was a young Republican, dyed in the wool, Republican. I supported him. I wasn't happy about it, but I was no way in, hell, I was going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
But what happened? So I held my nose and pulled the lever. But now it's just, I'm kind of lost. But we need younger people in there. I've become, I think, more of a constitutionalist.
Good.
Kind of like Cruz, he was a constitutionalist, with libertarian, aspects. But I'm a firm believer that the Constitution is not a living, breathing document. The founding fathers knew what they wanted. This is what they were afraid of.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're saying that the Constitution is not a living, breathing document, and I'm not sure Joe Biden's a living, breathing president. So, hey, a lot going on there. Thank you, Billy. Thank you for the call.
Come on, man.
We're having fun. We're going to come back. We're going to shut this thing down. Thank you for engaging. I see Matt Murphy making his way in here. Something about Dan Mandis and pickleball. I don't know. We'll see you on the other side. I'm Cameron Smith. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7. And that's what we call jumping the shark. Mac, no.
You know who this is, Cameron, but
I've heard the song, but
wow. That's crazy.
Who is it?
I can guess.
Who?
Taylor Swift.
How am I older than both of them? And
I know this.
Who is it, Bill? Who is it?
I don't have any.
I've heard it before. I don't know who it is.
Well, I knew Matt wouldn't know. I assumed you'd know because you did it. You've done great today on the music quizzes. This is Paramore. This is the band that you don't know.
Since when did this radio station start music quizzes?
Because he was shocked at my knowledge on bumper music.
I guarantee you, I'll take a 20-year period of time, and you take the last 20 years in music, and you quiz me, and I'll know nothing, and I'll quiz you, and you'll know nothing. Because I can take the period of time between 1950 and 1970 in country music.
Oh, in country music? Yeah, I'm out. Yep, that's fair. I'm done.
I
was going to say classic rock.
Don't give me that look like I'm some old man on a front porch.
This is the guy that thought Paramore was the thing. So you're fine.
I don't even know.
That thing we just heard was them.
Is Paramore a person?
What are you talking about on your show?
Hey, Cameron, how are you?
Hi, Matt.
Nice to see you as well. Pleasantries.
What's the thing? What's going to be the best thing?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, what time is it?
It is 11:58 and 48 seconds.
I'll figure it out.
You've got time.
I'll figure it out. Death porn.
Okay.
We are watching people just go in feet first in death porn today with the Titan submersible, which is all this is. And Joe Biden. Joe Biden thinks Vladimir Putin is fighting Iraq, so that's nice.
Well,
did you hear this?
No.
This happened like an hour ago, where he said that Putin was losing the war in Iraq.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
Yeah, well, I've
that's
heard
our
of
president.
That. Well,
that's our president.
Y'all hang out with Matt. We'll have fun. I'm Cameron Smith. We've had a good time today, and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Searing triple-digit temperatures creating dangerous conditions in much of the Southwest today. Louisiana and Texas among the states under an oppressive heat dome. ABC's Maria Villarreal is in San Antonio and says fire crews are on high alert.
Just in the month of June, the San Antonio Fire Department has responded to over 250 heat-related calls. That's up 53% in comparison to the same time last year.
Residents won't get a break until this weekend from that hot spell. Thunderstorms, hail, and the threat of tornadoes are the concern for parts of the South and Upper Plains. And heavy smoke drifting into the U.S. from Canada wildfires are raising red flags for air quality. Chicago has the worst air quality globally today. President Biden is there delivering a